Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Yellow Spandex. We got the boys here. We're all hanging out. If you haven't caught up with the episodes, we do some crazy stuff. So, listen.
As he's drinking a juice box.
This week, we talked about Brightburn.
Yeah.
What else did we talk about?
Aladdin,
I fit in a Mortal Kombat reference at some point.
of course.
Some X-Men.
Yeah, the Dark Phoenix a little bit. We'll
Sonic
get into
the
more of that.
Hedgehog.
That's right. Mostly Aladdin, though.
And Terminator.
Yeah, Terminator.
And Terminator.
Dark Fate.
Coming at you.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back to Yellow Spandex. Last week, we went through all kinds of crazy stuff, but this week, we're going to go through more crazy stuff, starting with Brightburn, because we just saw that, and it's very fresh in my memory.
Yeah. Are we doing spoilers or not?
You're going to have to.
You usually have the time codes and stuff, right?
Yeah, I'll
So you'll
usually
know
put
where
the time codes afterwards.
you
If
know
you're
where to
watching on
skip.
YouTube, just jump to the next time code.
So
but-
there isn't a whole lot to spoil because it does pretty much fit the Superman storyline. Although
It does,
I
yeah.
saw like an interview with James Gunn who said that the Superman thing was an afterthought, which is really interesting. Like they had this story of like what if you adopted a child that could do anything they wanted, which is
A murderous killer.
isn't that the Omen?
I don't know.
kid-
I never watched
kid
the Omen.
was-
I think it was, but
It
like
is an omen.
no, like the Omen,
bad omen.
like the movie, like but I don't know it was way more violent than I thought it was going to be.
It was graphic.
Just
God.
how
So,
violent it is.
It was kind of like the Final Destination, Mortal Kombat level violence. But then I was saying to Josh before we started rolling, like it was like Mortal Kombat fatality violence. But then if you lingered on it for like 10 minutes and it just kept going, like for example, like one of the first spoilers, there's a scene where what's the kid's name? Brandon.
Yeah.
Like his uncle pisses him off. That's
Real
a recurring
bad.
theme. Basically,
His uncle pissing him off?
well, if you're
just people
if
pissing
you're
him
nice
off.
if you're nice to the kid, then you're fine.
He won't kill you.
But if you piss him off once, he'll murder you.
And it's going to be
And- and he-
horrendous.
And it's kind of like I don't know. I mean, everybody remembers like puberty. Like imagine like having all those feelings and then the ability to do anything you wanted.
yeah.
It's like a very dangerous proposition, which got me thinking after the movie. I was like, this is probably more of like what Superman's adolescent years would have been like if if you discover your powers in the middle of like. I mean, I guess the whole premise is he's good, like he's inherently good. So there's that. But if you were like kind of more of like a human feelings kind of person,
Yeah.
and you're going through that turbulent like era of your life, you're like, but now you have the power to do anything to anybody.
Now you can fly and you have super strength and you have laser eyes.
Well, like I know there's alternate versions of Superman, especially there's actually one called Red Sun, like SON, that where he his ship lands in like Ukraine or Russia or whatever, and he ends up being like their hero,
Okay.
kind of deal. And he gets raised a different way, so it's kind of like him. He landed in rural Kansas to where like a family that really wanted to have a child didn't get to have
Yeah.
a child, so they raised him really well. Like
So in this, it seemed the family like raised him well. It was pretty much Mom and Pa Kent, except it was the Byers or
Bryers.
Bryers. Because Byers is Stranger Things. Bryers is. I did this earlier on something else. So because Elizabeth Banks and then the dude from The Office were both like they seem like all American parents, but the kid like and in fact when that's one of the reasons they started noticing something was off because like the kid was acting different, and at first. And this is something they didn't address in the movie, but like, so the Elizabeth Banks' sister, I think, either sister or sister-in-law, I think sister, is also the school counselor and Brandon's aunt. So she's like, oh, he's just going through puberty. That happens. I'm like, except he's not a human. Like, they've acknowledged this a few times now. Like, so they can't, like, apply those rules. Like, oh, he's just a boy things. Like, I mean...
He looks like us.
Yeah, they just said that like later, like he looks like us and he acts like us, but he's not us. Like they didn't know where he came from, like they.
He's not.
So
from
he
here.
landed pretty much the same way because I didn't see this movie. Obviously, I wanted
Yeah.
to, but like you guys had told me, and a couple other people told me that it's super gory, and I was like,
so gory.
I don't think I want to watch a super gory movie. I just don't like that.
So yeah, they have the spaceship.
yes,
So at the beginning, they kind of allude to it. Like actually, it opens with a sex scene. Elizabeth Banks. I I want to say Elizabeth Banks, like the couple. I don't even remember Tori, and I can forget the dad's name.
Melvin.
Sure. They're trying to have a kid, so they paint that picture. Like you hear them in foreplay, like nothing's happening yet. But they're like, oh, put a baby in me, and then they scroll up the bookshelf with like, you know, what to expect when expecting how to get pregnant, like all these. So you get the idea.
Maternity books,
and then all of a sudden, like you hear a crash, and then lights go out, and you just it's
something
like,
landed in the woods.
But then like later in the movie, when the kid finds what's hidden in the barn, they set that up too. They're like, don't go in the barn. We're like, what's the one thing you don't tell a kid?
I know.
It's like what you don't want him
that
like
he will
do. They're like, don't go into the barn.
Hey, don't go in the barn.
So eventually he finds the thing, and the thing is the spaceship.
Yeah.
And they don't spend a lot of time like trying to figure out like what the spaceship is or whatever. Like they show Elizabeth Banks like Googling like,
spaceships.
Well, like a comet or like meteor strikes.
Trying to find like leads back to.
But they never really come back to it. They just kind of show that she's curious about it as well, but they don't try to explain it. But the gory thing. So this is going back to like the uncle. So the uncle pissed off Brandon. And it was kind of founded because it was like a domino effect. Like when one person pisses him off, it just keeps this cycle going. So like his aunt is a school counselor, and he's in trouble for something that was the result of his powers. And she has to report to the sheriff that he's not mentally sound. So she's like, you have to tell me that you're sorry, you know, and he's like, well, sometimes bad things happen for good reasons. Like I cracked up.
In the theater laughing.
And so she's like, well, I can't tell the sheriff that you're remorseful if you're not. And he's like, well, I'm not. So instead he goes to her house at night to murder her. And he goes like he's getting ready to, and then the uncle comes home drunk from the bar. And he's like, Jesus, Brandon, what are you doing here? And he gets pissed off because he's at his house. So that's kind of justified, but then he treats him like really badly after that. It's like because he's already drunk, so he's like in a rage. He's like, get in the effing car, and like so Brandon's like, you shouldn't do that. And then there's this whole sequence of like a car chase, and he's like messing with them and stuff. And then
Brandon's like flying around, and then at one point he actually flies into the dude's car and out again.
Yeah. And he picks up the car, kind of like a parody of the first Superman comic book, where he's picking up the car, except it's like a lot more violent. So he picks up the truck, and then he like puts it like nose down and like makes it nosedive from like 30 feet in the air down to the ground. And this is what I didn't expect. They zoom in on the uncle driving. He's like, and he's screaming. His mouth is open. The top of his mouth hits the steering wheel, and his jaw flies off.
Yeah, just all of the bottom of the jaw dislocates, and all tears out, and like is hanging.
And then that I thought, I was like, oh my God, that just happened. But then for the next like 5 or 6 minutes, it's him holding his jaw in place while trying to talk to this kid. And it was like, what is going on? It just like keeps going, because I was like, I don't want to see, because you see him trying to move his muscles, and it's just like bloody. And then the kid just like walks up and puts his finger like in his mouth and takes the blood out and like looks at it and then like draws on the ground. I'm like, I get it. They're like painting the picture. He's a psycho, but like it. It's like, this is the imagery I'm never gonna get out of my head.
Yeah.
There's a point in the trailer too where you see the guy in this Bronco, and he's like trying to get his car started, and the lights click on, and you see Brandon out there with his like cloth hood on, that weird like mask that he made. And then the lights go out, and the lights come back on, and Brandon's flying. He's
like elevated.
Or he's standing, he is flying. And you hear the dude behind the wheel will be like, nope. Yeah. And that was like the only. Well, there was a lot of funny parts of the movie actually,
but there was like sacrificial kind of stuff. Like
it was.
Was he bad like from the beginning?
No. Like when he opened up, he was a quiet country. He was what you would imagine like
it's when
a
he
kid in
figured out
Kansas
who he was.
Yeah, like he was what you would imagine a kid in Kansas who didn't have any siblings and like not very many friends at school, like kind of shy and introverted and stuff. And then there's a time like they don't explain this either, but the spaceship like kind of beacons to him. That's how he finds it. But when it beacons, he's speaking like Latin or some like made up Latin or something.
Language.
And eventually, spoiler again, it translates to him as like take the world. And so he starts like teaching himself to use his powers not to be Superman, but to like take over Earth. So it's more of like an alien takeover story.
Okay.
But I think you might have saw on my personal Facebook, like I said, holy shit, Brightburn, like when I got out.
Yeah.
And one of our friends back in Delaware, Eric, had like commented like, is it as good as I hoped it to be? I'm like, well, weird subjective question, but
Yes,
I think so, maybe. But they were like, is it a superhero horror movie? I'm like, okay, so this is where I think it is. I think they're counting on that everybody, unless you've lived under a rock or been in a coma, you know the Superman story.
Right.
At least the overarching. I think I could ask my dad.
Everybody knows those details.
Like, what was the Superman story? He's like, I don't know, kid in the woods, the comet, like,
Yeah, barn.
But I think if you didn't know that story and you went into the movie, it'd be more like a Michael Myers film or like a Leatherface kind of film, because it's about like a messed up person and like a bunch of gore. But there's like little things of like, there was a little bit of like Unbreakable in it, because like one of the first times Brandon finds his powers, he's like trying to start the lawnmower, and everybody knows those push mowers, like, you have to like mess with the choke to get it to start. And he gets frustrated and he just throws it into the field, and that's when he's like, oh,
He realizes
something's up. And they don't exactly say how. Maybe it was because of the beacon from the spaceship, but he gets this like feeling that he's invincible. Like, he's also like physically invincible.
I think it was because he had that birthday, and whatever age he turned was like what triggered everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just don't know how he knew he was like impermeable. Because after he threw the lawnmower, he goes to go get it, because somehow it survived being launched 30 feet in the air, like not even like 100 feet in the air and then back down.
It's still running.
It's still running, but it's upside down, and you see the blades going, and he just slowly. I mean, they drug it on, like him sticking his hand in it, and I was like, oh, he's gonna find out he's not impervious. He's not, but he was. It was like Unbreakable. He's like, and it jams up the lawnmower.
I think that's one of the scenes in the trailer.
Okay.
Or at least in one of the first trailers that I saw.
And so I had a couple of questions. I mean, I try not to think too much about these movies, but this one had like a setup where like you were supposed to like think about outer details. So I was like, did the dad never find out that the lawnmower got mad? Like, how do you explain that away? I ran over like a large
they never
rock
really
or something.
Went back to that, huh?
But then like how he kind of like
His death
knew
was the worst.
the dad. Yeah, everybody dies.
So everybody, okay. I was
Everybody
wondering
dies.
if like he kept his parents alive.
Oh no.
The whole time, his mom's trying to like prove to everyone, or just prove to herself, that he is good.
He has good in him. He doesn't.
He doesn't.
So that might be the biggest spoiler. There's no redemption arc.
He kills her. Probably the
Is she the
worst.
last kill?
It's the very last kill. Well, kind of. So, full spoiler for the ending thing. So, his parents are some of the last people of the main characters you see go. So, you can see it ramping up, because the very first person he harms, there's a girl he has a crush on. And his dad has the birds and the bees talk with him. And he's like, well, it's okay. So, like, without getting too graphic here, he tells him, like, it's okay to act on those things, meaning if you need to play with yourself a little because you're a teenager, go ahead and do that. But Brandon takes it as do whatever the hell you want. So he goes to this girl's house, like he flies over while their family's on their camping trip, because he figures no one knows he has super speed and all the whatever. And so he goes to the girl's house and keeps turning on her Spotify to like some love songs, and like hides in the curtains. And she finds
scares
him.
the shit out of him.
And so she freaks out. And later at school, even though nobody believes her that he was in her room because their family was like miles and miles away at a camping trip.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, he's a pervert. And he fell down because of this gym activity. So the gym teacher's like, you have to help him up or you're going to fail. And so she like, kind of like reluctantly puts her hand down to help him up. And she keeps like dissing him. Like she's calling him names as like she's helping him up. So I think that was like the line, and he just breaks her hand. And that was like the first thing. And it kept escalating to like the aunt, the uncle, the lady at the diner and stuff. And
it wasn't just like a crunch and it's done. It was like a crunch, a twist, like another like move. It was nasty.
Ooh. And so by the time it gets to the end with the parents, the dad, he has this like dream of the night, like a recollection, like a heightened recollection of the night they found the kid and how he kind of should have ended it there. Because he's like, we find a spaceship and a baby in it, that like raises some questions, but like they didn't ask any questions at the time. And so he wakes up and he's like, he tells the mom, like, I'm sorry, I think there is good in him. I'm going to take him out camping for mom and dad and Sunday. But the real reason is he wants to take him out to the woods and shoot him. I guess at this time, the dad doesn't know that he's impervious. So he tries to shoot him in the back of the head while the son's like bent over looking at tracks. And it feels like a rock on his head. And he turns around, you just see it, like the switch turn. Like he wasn't against his parents until that moment.
Yeah. Well, up against his father, yeah.
And so
they both had a moment.
It's gruesome. He like grabs his dad. He messes with his dad. He's scared. He does like a Blair Witch kind of thing in the woods. And then when he finally grabs him, he like looks him dead in the eye and then laser beams straight through his head. And then the mom figures out he really is like a psychopathic serial killer. So she calls the dad on the cell phone, but I guess in the timeline this is right after the dad was killed. So Brandon picks up the phone. He's like, "Hi, Mom." And he's like, and she's like, "Where's Dad?" And he's like, "He's gone." It is this whole like long drawn out. You could see her like unraveling. She's like, "Where are you?" And he's like, "Home." And he's like hovering above the house. And then it's just like 30.
She's in the house.
It's like 30 minutes of him like messing with her. Like just it's most of what the trailer is.
There's other points of the trailer where you see Brandon like flying in and out of the house, like going through walls and shit.
What you don't see is the sheriff comes to the house because they get a 911 call.
Yeah.
And he does that Raiden thing, the Superman, that thing, except it just pulverizes the sheriff and I don't know if it was meant to be, but it kind of reminds me of the first episode of Big Bang Theory. Did you remember
I
that?
don't remember the first episode.
So the very first episode is why I originally liked the show, and then it kind of fell off, but Leonard and Sheldon are having a conversation. They were like, if Lois Lane were falling from the Empire State Building at X number of miles an hour and Superman was flying up and caught her, his arms of steel would cut her in 3 even pieces. Like if he wanted to have mercy on her, he would just let her fall a peaceful death. So Brandon like just zips past and just like Raiden's this guy, and he just pulverizes because it comes so fast. And I that was one of those moments where everybody in the theater just laughed, not because it was bad, but because it was like we just did not see that coming.
Didn't know what to do.
But then I forget. Oh,
Dude's a serial killer though.
So
he leaves his signature each kill.
Yeah, the mom remembers that earlier when he first found the spaceship, he like fell into the place where the spaceship was, and like his hand grazed the spaceship and it cut him, and it was the first thing that had ever made him bleed. So she runs out to the ship and grabs like a shard of the ship and puts it in her back pocket. And you're thinking like, okay, so this is how this resolves. She remembers it. She ends up killing her own son. It's a sad story. She like goes to do it. He already knows, and he stops her. And then he just flies up into outer space and then drops her. Like looks her dead in the eye and just drops her and let her fall back down to Earth. And then you see like a plane coming at him, and then it just cuts to black, and it's the next morning there's a plane that's crashed over their house, like on their house.
Every single person died.
And he's like sitting back behind an ambulance, like eating an Oreo.
Like then, he was a survivor of the house.
Then the entire credits is like a parody of Batman v Superman when Wonder Woman opens that email. So I thought it was Brightburn, like the kid, but like different artist interpretations of him. Like everybody thought it was different things. And Vince thought they were opening up this universe, all these different parody characters. I watched some YouTube videos and people had pointed out like, oh, those may be James Gunn's way of making, because they were like a man who swims underwater and a woman with a rope that strangles people. And
sarcastic.
And it was I can't remember the guy's name. The guy who played Yondu.
Oh yeah.
That dude. He was basically.
Yeah, I heard he had a cameo.
Yeah, he was in the end credits as why can't I remember his name? Who's the Infowars?
Oh gosh, Alex Jones.
Yes. So he was Alex Jones, and he was like, the government doesn't want you to know about the kid with the superpowers, and then the guy swimming underwater, the witch that will strangle people to death in their sleep, and he's basically like outlining like dark members of the Justice League. So I was like, well, I still because the way they drew it made it look like it was just like different people's versions of what they saw of the same person. And Vince thought it was the different universe thing. We just watched an interview with James Gunn and Elizabeth Banks. And one of the interviewer's questions was like, we just saw the end credits. Are you opening the... Oh, no. They didn't see the end credits. They're like, since you're doing a Dark Superman, have you thought about expanding this to another universe? Is this to an entire universe? And he was like, stay tuned for the end credits. That'll give you your answer. I'm like, oh, crap. Maybe they will do this. They're going to have like a dark like Aquaman and Wonder Woman. And I don't know.
Have all these like horror films.
Well, it's a Sony film, isn't it, right?
I just don't remember.
I'm pretty positive it's not a Warner Brothers. Which is why they couldn't have like Superman like involved in it. He's not obviously not. It's not like Clark Kent and Lois Lane.
They have been dancing around the Superman parallels.
It was pretty freaking exciting though. If you're into that type of movie, you're gonna really be excited about this one.
That we just completely spoiled.
I know, right? Even with the spoilers though, you're still gonna enjoy it because there's so much we left out.
Yeah, and also this. Besides the fact, like the only real spoiler was the whole like there was no redemption. Everything else is kind of like what you'd expect it to be. Like there wasn't much like, whatchamacallit, like deviation from the original
Right,
Superman
right.
story thing.
I'm not a fan of like movies that don't have good endings or happy endings, I would say.
Happy endings.
Yeah. Or at least like
this is
okay endings.
This is a happy ending for Brandon.
I was listening to another podcast talk about it. And it said it was kind of like an idea of like there's a certain kind of bird that like I think they lay eggs in a nest that already has eggs in it. Mm-hmm. And then like the mom of that, nest raises it until it gets old enough and then it just eats everybody.
Oh, jeez.
That sounds a lot like this because it's almost like they waited for Brandon to be at like puberty age to like beacon him, and then he's supposed to take over the world. They kind of imply by the end credit stuff that you watch and all the like, it's a bunch of like news clips and stuff that he's halfway there. So I don't know what they're gonna do with that, but I wasn't expecting it to be that. I expected it to be dark. I didn't expect it to be that gory.
Yeah, it was like super gory.
Not as gory as Hellboy, but pretty gory. Like a lot gorier than I thought it was going to be. The moments it took, like there might have been half a dozen gory moments, but they played them out.
It wasn't
Yeah.
like Texas Chainsaw Massacre gory or anything. Well, maybe it was.
I'm thinking about it.
I
I'm
don't
like,
know.
depending on which scene. I don't know. On the flip side of that, we saw Aladdin.
Which is, on the very flip
Spoiler
side.
alert.
Yeah.
She gets the guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she gets the guy. That's fun. It's funny you worded that way because it's like, oh, no, he gets the girl. No, she gets the guy. That's really the only spoiler for Aladdin. Because otherwise, it's like, it doesn't play by play. I'm sure people have heard me talk about this on our various things 100 times. I'm not going to repeat too much, but it's like a reminder of the movie and not like a direct, like, remake.
Shot for shot.
Yeah. I mean, there are parts that are shot for shot. Like, I'm pretty sure A Friend Like Me is like shot for shot, but it was cool. Like, I liked it. But to me, the strongest point was they gave Jasmine a storyline. Not that I think she was missing it before, but if they were going to like add like one extra element to an updated version, that made sense because it made her character kind of like have a story. In addition, because the first Aladdin was about Aladdin, this one's like, it's about Aladdin until about the second act, and then it kind of leans a little bit more Jasmine.
Yeah.
And
Gave her a voice.
I like the new song. I think Naomi Scott does a good job, and you worked with Naomi Scott, right, on Lemonade Mouth?
I think
Like
so.
engineering.
Let me take a pic. I want to see what she looks like. She was in. Okay, if she was in.
They said her first big break was Lemonade Mouth.
Yeah, if she's one of the main characters, then yes.
Haley
Naomi
Ki-
Scott. Okay, yeah,
Haley,
yes, that.
Haley Kiyoko was in
Yes,
there too. That's
she
funny.
was actually really cool. She was one of the ones that I liked a lot. She was super funny and just outgoing.
She's her and so Nassim Pedrad is also in it as a handmaiden, like a new character. Those two, go watch Andre the Black Nerd, his review of it because he sums it up pretty much. It's unfair,
On
how
YouTube.
gorgeous those two are in this movie, both like inside and out, like outside, but also like as characters, like just as far as like they're not stereotypical like strong independent women like in the social justice sense, but like they're strong-willed women. I don't know. To me, someone else could probably analyze a little bit better. I don't think there was that much of a message. It was just kind of like well, what if you were a little girl that never got to leave her house and didn't ever have a thing to say, or wasn't ever allowed to say anything? Like, how would you feel? Like, that's kind of like. I also don't know how old these characters are supposed to be.
Yeah,
Like, they could be 13 or like 30. I'm not sure.
yeah. Well, no, the original story, the Aladdin story, I think isn't it an Oriental story? I think the characters are.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere like in the Middle East, or I don't know. So I forget about the original movie. This movie is definitely like a broad amalgamation of anything East, like because Agrabah
Like
is
what
obviously-
Americans think of East, like, oh, this is the pretty part, like we're like
Maybe.
not the part that we're currently bombing.
Oh yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, it's. I mean, they obviously don't go into dark tones, but
Good.
like it's actually like 1/4 Bollywood to me. Like there's points that make more sense as a Bollywood musical than like a regular musical or like original Aladdin, because the original Aladdin was like a straight up pop musical.
Yeah.
This one's kind of like when they break out dance sequences. Like I don't know if they're actual traditional dances, but they appear that way. So maybe they're like a fusion, or someone who actually knows something about those types of dances could probably weigh in. But they looked very genuine, and it was more of like a Bollywood kind of thing.
I thought it translated really well from the animated to this live action, and it wasn't like an abbreviated version of it, but it was like they this time they knew the audience, like you were saying, like they knew the audience knew the story. You know what I mean? You guys knew all the details, so like they kind of just like hopped into certain things.
It was very much like a Cliff's Notes version of Aladdin for me, which they needed to do because it was already like 2 hours long. So I don't know how much longer little kids would watch something.
I don't know. My kids watch a lot of things for a lot longer than 2 hours.
Well, I guess meaning like in the theater,
Yeah.
I think the thing I liked the most though was the art design.
It looked beautiful.
The art design, the colors, the textures of what people were wearing, like the way they designed the sets and everything. Art design as far as the sets, and then the way they did Genie. He has these like clasps or like the things that are on his wrists there, and then off of his wrists are these like silver some lining. It's really cool looking, almost tribal, and I just really enjoyed the way they did everything.
The Genie, when he's moving, looks better in context than he did in the stills that we saw earlier.
Yeah.
I still don't know. I either wish that it was somebody other than Will Smith, or they allowed Will Smith to be more. Because the whole thing about Robin Williams as a Genie is
Will Smith.
Yeah, because the whole thing about the Genie is he was kind of like unchained. Like it felt like they just like let him loose in the sound booth, gave him the script, and they were like, whatever you do, we'll animate around it.
Yes.
Kind of thing. With Will Smith, it kind of felt like subdued to an extent. Like, not bad, because like I said, there were some parts that were like, wow, that was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Like when he tailors Aladdin, I thought it was really funny.
I'm sure he didn't want to try to recreate what Robin Williams is. For one, I don't think he probably could have done it. For two, like it would have just felt odd, like not being him.
That's actually a good point too, that Andre the Black Nerd brings up that I agree with. The strongest moments for the Genie when it's just Will Smith, and it feels like I didn't think about this until Andre pointed it out, but like they probably got Will Smith because they need to take the focus away from Robin Williams. So they need someone who, when you hear his name, you know what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, Will Smith's just going to be Will Smith. And for 80% of the Genie, it's just Will Smith, and that works in that sense. It's Will Smith.
He's like walking around just as what kind of Will
Well,
Smith?
no, I mean like his personality wise.
Okay.
Even when he's the big mystical Genie,
he
still has like the personality of Will Smith. Because
Still sounds like Hitch.
Yeah, he's basically Hitch in this movie. He's setting him up with Jasmine. He's like, oh, go talk to her, mention something. He's giving all these tips and stuff. But then 20% of the time, they like him or the studio or somebody was like, let's do that thing Robin Williams did. It does not translate well at all. Like it's just like ooh, you were doing good until that moment.
Phenomenal cosmic powers. Is that it?
Actually,
That's script though.
that line was in there.
What is script and what is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in that section, that's hard to know.
So that line was in there, and I don't know if they purposely did it completely different to not compare it to that. Mm-hmm. I think they should have left it out because the way it was a passing thought, and for us, it was like a big memory.
Yeah,
like big phenomenal, and he blows up, and then like so in this movie, like he like seconds before does a big CG thing. He's like oh da da da, and then he's like big living, and then he just as a person is like big living space, itty bitty, like big phenomenal power, itty bitty living space. And I was like, oh wow, that was. And then even later, when Jafar gets trapped, he says it as a passing thing, like like when you have like the buddy cop movies and like the guy gets caught and they're like, he says his like taglines like whatever, I don't know, that's the way the cookie crumbles or something, That's kind of like what he's saying is like it's like big phenomenal power, it'd be a living space. I'm like, oh, they did it twice now.
Yeah. Aladdin didn't say it because that's what he does in the original movie. He says
Genie.
it to him.
I think it was Genie.
There's a few lines that they swapped.
Mm-hmm. But Raja. It's still Raja. I like that. And Apu. The animals were actually really good.
Yeah.
Because Raja was a tiger in the original movie, and
didn't talk.
He's the same in this. The only thing I don't even wish they did this. The only thing I kind of missed though with Apu was like one of the funniest memories I had of Apu was he was making fun of Aladdin for falling in love with Jasmine, and he was like, he didn't do that. And I get it because it would have been too much for this version of Abu. But it was a really good Abu.
Trying to be slightly more grounded in
reality.
Yeah, he seemed
opposed to like a walking monkey acting like humans.
Yeah. It definitely like. I think if I was inebriated enough, I would just believe that was a real monkey because like it was only like one click heightened from a real
it was
monkey.
like eyes. Eyes in the mouth.
And
the rest of it was just monkey.
Same with Iago. Like Alan Tudyk, the chicken from Moana.
Yeah, he has a lot of things.
Yeah, but I guess he's like an ongoing thing of being birds in Disney.
Oh, really?
I don't
Nice.
know. Like, so, or now, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, he's King Candy in the, what's it, Wreck-It Ralph?
Oh,
and he's
nice.
also in Wreck-It Ralph 2, he's the little guy, the Google guy that you ask questions.
Oh, that's right.
And, yeah.
So, yeah, he's Iago. Iago sounds like a parrot, except a parrot that sometimes talks for itself instead of repeats. So it's not like Gilbert Godfrey was just talking.
I think he's had some some odd things he's said in the last few years. I think probably got him out of the running for this movie.
They replaced everybody. The only original voice was the guy who, I guess the same guy voiced Cave of Wonders, Abu, and Raja are the same person, and he was back for this movie.
For the Lion King one, they're gonna have James Earl Jones though back,
Ooh,
which
really
is
cool.
weird.
I guess it makes sense, like the off-camera voice thing for both those. Because when it opens with the Cave of Wonders, you're like, oh, that voice.
I remember James Earl Jones in Bell Atlantic commercials.
Yeah.
That ages me.
That's the legacy he's hoping to leave.
Everybody remembers that.
He's still alive. That's even more amazing.
Yeah. That's just sad because then I remember he was on Big Bang Theory too. Like he and I don't know if it was Sheldon, but like they were pranking Carrie Fisher in the TV show, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. There's so much tragedy around Carrie Fisher. I didn't know till the other day. I saw like a little article pop up that she never made it to put her handprints in the Chinese theater.
Wow.
So they ended up putting a plaque instead. I was like, why didn't they not do that? They had there was like 40 years they could have done that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So there it is.
Yeah.
But I think Aladdin was fine. If you have kids, probably be better. If you really want, if you go in not expecting it to be as good or better than the original, it could be fine. It's also like a better representation of the Broadway musical than anything else. It wasn't great. It was kind of like, I keep going back to Andre the Black Nerd. He was like, listen, everybody knows what these live action remakes are at this point. So
Cash
if
That Jasmine song is dope.
yeah. The Jasmine's story arc and her new song are the highlight of the whole movie. I think universally everyone kind of sees. But as far as like the live actions, like everybody gets, even if besides the cash grab stuff, the vibe, everybody gets the vibe of them now. So it not much changes. Like it's over. And then there's this whole thing where some scenes are just sped up. I don't know. If you guys see this, like leave comments and stuff. Because I didn't get the style. I know Guy Ritchie like directed it or supposedly directed it, but it didn't feel like Guy Ritchie directed it. It felt like Disney, like generic Disney director directed it and was told to add like Guy Ritchie moments. Because sometimes Guy Ritchie does like the speed ramping stuff. There were sped up scenes, but it wasn't like a stylized, it just looked sped up.
It was cool. There were some sections where it was layered, like where you would see like the background and the foreground are being sped up, but the subjects are in real time, like layers in that sense.
But
there was a few times like that.
I feel bad about dissing it too much because a lot of effort obviously went into it. Like you see like all the dancers in production, like the point that they zoom out of it, and I don't know if it was CG or if it was real, but I would believe if it being real. When it's like they drone shotted like a distance shot of like this production, like of Prince Ali, and it was like, yeah, I don't want to discount like the probably 2,000 people it took to make this one shot happen, but for me it definitely didn't like hit the same feels as the original did, but it was fine. It's just I couldn't get over how some moments were so incredible and way better than I'd ever hoped for, and some moments were like way worse than I could have ever imagined, and it being in the same film.
They got to know by now, though, that the people aren't going to feel that, no matter what. Like, just because the first time as a kid that you see those movies, it's different from seeing it again as like a remake later.
See, I want to see Jungle Book because I hear everybody who's seen it say that was the one that got them on board for the live actions, because that one kid was basically the whole movie, and he was so good. And then they just kept like cashing it in after that. So I still need to see Jungle Book because I heard that's the one that did it. Like they actually did it, but I don't know.
I honestly think that if the live actions were first, they would probably get received just as like as well as these cartoon versions that we had in the 90s.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're going into it already, like
It's
seeing
really,
it before.
really hard because like they at first they had a an animated base, so like they could have done anything. Like they could defy rules in the animated world. So like you can't really bash this, not bash this movie, but like there's some things you just have to be the way they are. Like you were saying earlier, it was like it's kind of like if you ever saw Aladdin on Broadway, which is amazing, by the way. David Copperfield designed all the special effects
and stuff.
Oh, weird.
But
not David Copperfield, but his team.
So I felt the same way about the Broadway musical though. It was like it was fine. And then the genie made it. Like
Yeah.
the guy who does the Broadway genie, or the one who originated it.
Yeah.
he completely
crushed it.
He reinvented the genie. Like he was like Robin Williams was his thing. It's not even levels. It's just another bubble.
He's just like the most nimble person I've ever seen for being like 6'2", like 300 pounds.
Yeah. And they had a lot of special effects, so he would appear and reappear on different parts of the stage within like milliseconds and stuff. It's crazy. So I said the Broadway comparison, but the story is different than the Broadway version.
Yeah.
So the Broadway version added like 3 friends for Aladdin and all this stuff. That's not in this. This is pretty much the same character set except Nassim Pedrad. Like they added a handmaiden to Jasmine.
Yeah.
It worked in a couple ways. I guess this is a minor spoiler. But like Nassim Pedrad is like kind of like the love interest of the genie. I thought
That's
that
funny.
I thought that sounded convoluted when they first introduced it. It ended up being really sweet, I think. And
It was kind of funny.
and then there's something. We'll spoil Brightburn, but we won't spoil Aladdin because in case you want to see it, there's actually a really sweet way the whole thing wraps up. And if you're an adult, you'll probably figure it out halfway through the movie. But I think it's a sweet thing for like kids to figure out. And it was fine. Like I'm glad we saw it. A Whole New World is still magical, but it really is a testament to how well that song is written.
Yeah.
Also, the version that's on the soundtrack, that chick.
The end credits. So the end credit version of Whole New World. Whole New World.
Demi Lovato.
Yeah. No,
Is
it's
it?
no, it's
I got it.
Zayn,
Zane.
and he was the first kid to leave One Direction.
Oh, okay.
Who actually is like, as far as his projects, like are my favorites because he always does something like a little edgier, and he has a cool voice. So it's him, and then
This
this
chick.
girl that won the 4 or was one of the winners of the 4.
She's amazing.
Javia something. I don't, but she's from LA. Or Monroe.
sounds so dope.
She's from Monrovia.
That's right down the road.
Yeah. This is funny because we were at the theater. I'm like looking it up, like, oh, that Javia girl. She's from Monrovia, and Vince was like, is that somewhere near like Iraq or something? I was like, it's like
No,
30
it's
minutes away.
like next to Pasadena.
but
Monrovia sounds Russian.
but
little bit.
She has a really cool raspy voice, but the film version is really good too. The end credit version, man, it was like. I don't know if it's just because these two are really talented, but that is such a good song. Like it just hit me in the feels over again. Like when they released the song a couple weeks before the movie, and the way that Javia says, like I'm like a shooting star, I've come this far and I can't go back to where I used to be. I've heard that line, but I never heard that line until she sang it.
Got me.
It was weird. I didn't for some reason
sang it
I never got the analogy. Before some reason, like every other way it was saying, it's like I'm like a shooting star, I've come so far, and then
She made me
the way
feel
she sang it, I was like, oh, because a shooting star can't go back, and it went far.
I've come so far.
And they just gave you a music channel, right?
Right?
So good.
Oh, it's I don't know, but the music is definitely the best part of this. I don't know.
Overall, yeah, I would say I'd give it like out of 1 to 10. I would give it a solid like 8.5, 9, maybe 9.
I wish I could. I need to like watch it again and split up the parts and time code it. This time code 10 out of 10. This time code 9 out of 10. This time code like -1 out of 10. Like
I'm just glad they didn't try to create another animated Aladdin.
see in the 90s though, like those were actually like the series was pretty good.
The cartoon,
The
series?
cartoon, like as in like the afternoon cartoon series. Okay, that one. I mean, because they did that for everything.
But that one
But that
specifically,
wasn't that bad. Yeah,
it was better than the other ones they did that with.
they probably had all the same characters.
Everybody except for Robin Williams because he had a
Yeah.
falling out with Disney.
Yeah.
But then he came back for the movie that ended the TV series.
Oh, I didn't know it ended the TV series.
So
I know
the-
that they had like another straight to video movie, but
Yeah, so I guess Return of Jafar was after Aladdin.
yeah.
and then that
And it was
led
not
into
have
the
him.
that led into the TV series,
Mm-hmm.
and then the TV series led into King of Thieves,
Where he finds his dad.
and so so like. I was just thinking, in the series, there was one guy that was like the opposite of Aladdin. I can't remember his name. But he was drawn exactly like Aladdin, except pale and dark outfit and stuff. And they wanted to make the movie about him because they were supposed to reveal it's his brother. But then they couldn't get a hold of the voice actor.
Aladdin.
They couldn't get a hold of the voice actor. They found out the guy was going through depression and committed suicide.
Whoa!
So they were just like, let's explore Aladdin's dad.
Cast this.
No, so they just forgot about the character. He never appeared again, and they just went to Aladdin's dad for King of Thieves. But
Poor Aladdin.
that I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel about that, but I mean that third one wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
I remember Return of Jafar being like all those other straight to video movies that were just
Return of Jafar.
This is obviously just Return of Jafar. No, that's what I call it.
Return of Jafar.
so
Yeah, that Return of Jafar movie.
I didn't know this until I saw somebody report on it later. But Return of Jafar was the very first straight to DVD or straight to video, home video,
Wow.
big movie.
Wow.
From Disney.
And I guess because of how well it did money wise, they kept doing it.
Yeah.
It's like cocaine.
I can't remember enough of it. I do remember though the after
didn't see
school
it.
show was really to me pretty good.
Yeah. It was around Darkwing Duck days.
Yeah.
Right?
But somebody
Darkwing
made
Duck.
a good point in the same article I was reading about all that stuff, that the nice thing about the series is it was pretty true to spirit of the original movie, but also it kind of was the first time we saw a relationship in the Disney universe fleshed out, because we have the happy ending of Aladdin and they we're engaged,
Yeah.
and then it was happily ever after. But the series, you saw Aladdin and Jasmine go through couples
Yeah.
stuff. They
Wow.
argued.
That's true.
They almost get not divorced, but unengaged. They get through stuff, and then then King of Thieves was their marriage, them getting married, their wedding and stuff. So you actually see a couple seasons of them
Married.
getting their stuff together. No, you never see them married. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But the series, you see them work out their shit while they're engaged.
That's insane.
Which is I don't know if they meant to do it like that.
I had no idea that there was that much Aladdin
Lore.
out there.
Yeah, I don't remember too many of the episodes, but I remember since they were the two main characters, that's where the conflict so it might have just been by accident that they accidentally did something pretty responsible. They're like, hey kids, so after the prince meets the princess, they have to go through a lot of stuff to make sure it's still going to work. So
That's how relationships work.
yeah,
That's right.
However, Angie's parents, I think on the second date, basically kind of got engaged.
Yeah.
He didn't propose, I think, on the second date, but they talked about getting married then,
Yeah.
and they were married within the next year, I think.
But
How
I see,
old were they?
Yeah, I think he's probably had to be in 30.
But see, I
she was
think
23.
it's less of the engagement, getting to the married thing. Is just being in a relationship. So even if they
Yeah.
got married and then the series happened, just them working out
Flushing
that
out.
stuff after the happy ending. Because I think the genie comes back from his trip too,
Yes.
and then everybody it's a whole thing. Who was the genie though in the TV series? Was Homer Simpson, Dan Castellaneta.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
He was doing a Robin Williams
Yeah,
and it wasn't too bad. But you could hear it veer into Homer territory, come back here once in a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, what was I just thinking? There was something on the. I just heard this phone go off and I just blanked.
We were gonna watch this Terminator trailer.
Oh yeah, I guess there's a new Terminator movie, and it's. I heard it's another trilogy. I'm not quite
Ooh.
sure.
I've lost track of where
Terminology.
Terminator lore has gone. Vince is a lot more of an Arnold fan than I am. To me, Arnold's just an icon. When you think of buff action hero, he's at the top of the pyramid, and then everybody else kind of is versions of that.
Yeah.
But I remember Terminator 2, T2, that was the big one, right?
That's the one that everybody still unanimously loves.
And I think when people refer to Terminator, they're probably referring to T2 and not T1.
Probably they would probably
I would say
it's their favorite probably.
T1 was the shit.
It was so good, but like it's just the. was
Some
in the
people
80s.
even say it's like the perfect movie, like
See,
the way they did everything.
The reason I thought T2 was like bigger was because like whenever someone, especially in college, would reference Terminator and like, oh yeah, remember in Terminator when this happened? We'd go back to the original Terminator movie and like, that's not in this, and then we find out, oh, that was in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
So like 9 times
Well,
out
it's
of
a
10,
Cameron movie, so like Terminator 2 is huge.
Yeah.
So like, and he's doing this one too.
Yeah.
Which is it's odd to me. I've heard that it's supposed to be connected to the first two at least. Like there was Genesis that was last time. Did you see Genesis?
I don't think so.
It was like a super crazy like time travel kind of thing to
Yeah.
where like it happens. Apparently that's still I don't know if it's the same universe that happens in, but
I
this
think I
happens
saw that
before
one.
that. But apparently this
With the
movie happens
younger-
before that. I have no idea.
It's a younger Connors.
Yeah.
I lost track.
But
Hold
Terminator 3 I thought was absolutely awful.
Oh wait, no, I did see Genesis. That was the one where you found out where Skynet came from, right?
Yeah.
Yes. No, I did see that.
Okay.
Yeah. I also didn't know where that fell in the continuity.
But I remember there was Terminator 1, 2, and then 3 was obviously different, and it had like a whinier version of John Connor, and it's just odd. And then after that was Salvation,
Yeah.
which I was all like hoping, because I loved the first two Terminators, and like in that second movie, you see like a glimpse of John Connor, and you see like he's like this, strong person, basically like conquering, leader, taking on these machines and basically winning the war. And so you're like, I want to see that war is what I want to see, So like when you get to that part in the third movie, we're like,
It shows you there.
oops, everything's kind of happening by oops. We can't stop it. And then it's just not very well done. And then this next movie, you figure it's Salvation. You think it's the war. And it just happens, and it's a lot of the same. It's a lot of the car chases and other things to where, like, I don't know. It just bored me.
Yeah. The first and the second one are the best ones.
Yes. But this one, we're going to watch the trailer real quick, and then we can probably talk about
Yeah, somehow I haven't seen this yet.
It's got the original, the mom. What's her name? Linda Hamilton. And she's the original lady who was in the first two movies. They killed her off in the third movie. I don't know if she didn't want to be involved. I think Arnold was the only one that was, in the third movie that was involved in any of the earlier ones.
I'm kind of excited about this too because I knew I'd work a Mortal Kombat reference in here somehow. There's rumors that that the Terminator is going to be DLC in Mortal Kombat 11.
Ooh.
But people are speculating that and like Joker and stuff because I guess they did like a data mining and found it. But also like, well, if a new movie's coming out from Warner, it's a good way to like promote by putting it in the game. So everybody was speculating that, and then this morning, the day we were recording, Ed Boon tweeted out. Earlier in the week, Ed Boon tweeted out, next week we'll be announcing new DLC characters. It's like, cool. And then this morning, because they just had their big first tournament, the Combo Breaker, Ed Boon tweeted out, isn't Alien such a great movie? I'm like, we're going to have Alien again? We already had him. Unless it's like Ripley.
Oh, I'd be sick if it was actually one of the
that'd be
characters.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
All right, let's watch this.
All right, we're going to watch this.
I just noticed it was Paramount. It'd be funny if like Terminator gets out and he has like weird skinny legs.
Like Sonic. Did
Oh my gosh. That was cool.
Looks cool.
it say Billy Ray?
Did it?
Billy Bob, Billy
It
Ray.
says Billy Ray. That's
I
probably
guess
different
it's not
Billy Ray.
Cyrus.
He's already got his viral thing right now.
He's got this. huh?
Country Road.
Oh goodness. So does that mean she's going back in time? I'm supposing.
I don't know if anybody went back in time. I'm not sure.
I was hers.
Yeah.
So they turn humans into Terminators?
I don't.
Is that what they're implying?
know.
Well, that's what in the Salvation movie. That's what happened.
Very
Remember the guy's
twisty.
like he wakes up and like the Terminators had like turned him into a Terminator basically, which is kind of weird to me that they didn't have some kind of override protocol. The Terminators were put in his whatever.
like a total recall.
Yeah, like basically, I'm just going to shut down your mechanical body and blow you up or something, like because we're smart Terminators. But apparently
Yo.
they're all stupid.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? So now the MK DLC tie-in makes sense because there's a whole storyline in Mortal Kombat where the ninjas get turned into cyber ninjas because of an initiative. And if they try to like cross those storylines, we're like, oh, they just got caught up in the Terminator
Crossing
initiative.
the
Was
streams.
it the Lin Kuei?
But now I'm just figuring like Warner Brothers after like the Zeppelin of a movie Justice League was, they're probably just like, let's just cross all the universes, make them all work. Let's make them all work.
Get that bread.
But that looks cool. I'm down to see it. I don't know enough to be like screaming like a girl when like Sarah Connor comes up, but
Yeah.
like I know that was supposed to be a cool moment for huge fans.
Yeah, like seeing her be badass is just what everyone wants to see her do. So
Yeah, which is why, like, I know a lot of people getting upset about certain, females being kind of boring in certain movies or this or that, and they generally go back to like because people have come out and be like, we don't have enough females. That we never had enough badass like females. Like, dude, we actually had quite a few awesome.
Ripley
like she was awesome, and we had Ripley who was awesome. I mean, it's just there's quite a few.
I think the argument they were making there is they wanted them to be like the leads. And I know,
but like Ripley is a lead.
I know they're like I guess she ended up being I don't know if it was meant to be that, but there was a handful of really really good ones and stuff. But then I think later in history it dipped is when it happened. Like there was like a good point, like the Alien movies, like Terminator.
Well, even like the Halloween movies with
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Lee Curtis, yeah. I mean, she was pretty badass in those movies.
But then we hit like a stride of like late 90s, early 2000s where it was just like damsel in distress like across the board and stuff. So, but there are some good examples to follow. Like we don't have a new Ripley, I don't think. So like not
did she die again? Not literally clone her again.
Well, I mean not literally. I mean just like as far as like a space movie having like that kind of like a.
I wonder if they will put out another Aliens movie. I would be dope.
There's been several.
Pretty cool. Like another one if they put out another one. Also, was there some?
Are they all prequels at this moment though? Like the ones they've been working on?
I have lost so much track.
I don't
watch because there was Prometheus was like a prequel. Like it
and
was,
there's one after that.
Yeah, I saw. What was the last one we saw? Oh. It's Predator. I got confused. Same thing in my head. Like
that was. I liked the new Predator movie. It was kind of.
You watched? I heard it was actually awful. The new Predator.
It was
movie?
pretty bad. But it was like joke funny bad.
It was campy. It was like like an Evil Dead of Predator movies.
It's nothing like the original.
We also
no.
We saw it in 4DX.
It was kind of like the Donald Glover or Danny Glover one.
Oh, and that was like chubby Danny Glover too.
That was like Predator 3, I think.
That was Predator 2.
There was
only two of them.
We saw this in 4DX. For some of you who don't know, 4DX is where they had like the moving chairs and the smells and temperature and all that stuff. Because we had like free tickets, and so we saw it. The thing that sticks out in my memory is they associated the smell with a predator's blood, and they sprayed it to your face. And there's nothing natural that smells like this, and I guess that's why they sprayed it. Or whoever concocted it. But the closest thing I could come up with is like kind of like burning rubber if it was cold, like was the smell. And then when they spray, because they spray out of like the armrest into your face.
Ow!
It doesn't hurt, but like and usually it's just like a mist, and you're like, oh, incense or like
smells
rain.
Annoy me though. Like if there's too much of like a certain thing, I will get sick.
So it's usually not too much. This, however, like when it sprayed, it just never left for like the next like 12 hours. I was just like, oh, it's still here. Like
it's like skunk.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's what I remember with Predator movie. I don't actually remember the plot all that much, except that they had referenced that predators have been here before. Same universe.
It's just weird. Like with those 4DX, I don't know how many of those theaters there actually are, but there's got to be a lot of people like programming that stuff. Like how expensive that probably has to be to pay those people.
Actually,
and then it's not that expensive probably for tickets, right? It's only like $25, right?
It's kind of expensive.
The one we went to was like $30 a person.
Well, if you think about like most major theaters are like 17 or something.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense the amount because like if you like $20 is like 17 to 20 is like the regular ticket. And then like IMAX is like 20, 25. Like the 4DX is like,
and the chairs move, and you got smells, and you got lights and heat and
I would like to see
air and,
Brightburn in 4D.
Oh, I'm sure that would have been crazy.
So the biggest thing that sold me on 4DX that actually made us go see it, the 4DX before, that I was like, oh, the chairs move, all this stuff, is that there's things in the chair that punch your butt and your back. So like if you're seeing something like Star Wars, when someone gets stabbed with a lightsaber, it punches you in the back.
Ow.
And it's cool. I mean, it's just enough where it's forceful, but it doesn't like hurt unless you have like back problems or something. But they time it so they like it really. So all the other stuff is like, okay, it's fine. Like when it rains, that kind of annoys me because it's just like a wash of like mist. Like you get wet.
Yeah.
But the punching thing, like what did we see?
All I'm saying is when you make it cold in there because it's cold and then it goes into a desert thing as the next scene, make it freaking hot again.
That's
because
It lingers.
it stays freaking cold.
so some of you saw our Doctor Strange review, and we'd gone into like a 4DX theater to see Doctor Strange. It was like he gets like stranded in Antarctica or something, and so these turbines blow cold air, and you're like, oh, it's so cold. And then he's like walking through a rainforest, and it's like raining or something. It's like, okay, now I'm cold and wet. And he's in the desert. I'm like, didn't get warm.
Why is it still?
Where's the
cold?
heat?
It's so
Oh, you
cold.
forgot to program that.
So we gotta have to have the heat in the chairs.
Yeah.
It's actually the way they should do that is heat in the chair.
But it's I think anything like the rain and the smells, I think there's a button to turn those off if you don't want them specifically.
That'd be good because I heard a lot about the Fast and the Furious because there's so much like burning of rubber that it's just the rubber smell was just everywhere all the time.
That being,
would throw up.
That being said, though, like if any one of those elements you don't like something like that smell make you sick, you just shouldn't go to the 4DX.
Yeah.
Because even if you don't have it, everybody else does.
Yep.
So it's gonna be in there, and it's too expensive to not enjoy something because because it even $30. I mean, it scales up, right? But like $30 is like a lot when you times it. Like you're probably gonna see it with somebody else or like a family or something. Like this just adds up real quick for like a movie that you're hoping is gonna be good. That's another recommendation. Make sure it's a movie that you know is gonna be good or you've seen.
Yeah.
So like,
Just pay my kid to kick your seat whenever there's action scenes.
Or you could be idiots like us and see Predator and 4DX for free.
yeah. So we weren't too idiotic about that.
But Brightburn, I think, would have been pretty freaking cool
you're just constantly getting like hit.
because there was so much action. There was
Wind, I'm sure. Just whoosh, whoosh.
Yeah.
I guess not.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the turbines and stuff would like.
Yeah, like
I
all
hope.
the, like moving around from.
I've never seen a horror movie in 4DX, and I don't know if they like. I'm hoping that they don't, but they probably do emulate like the smell of like blood and carcasses and stuff.
Oh, I'd barf.
That's the thing I wouldn't like about Brightburn. If they were like, "Oh, that dude with his jaw falling off. This is what it smells like right now." I'm like,
No.
I don't want that.
That is like the weirdest thing to think about.
Rod had mentioned this. We could probably just end it with this. That the Sonic is being pushed back.
To Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Good. Redo it.
Well, they said they were going to redo it, but there was an outcry of people who were like, isn't that only going to create work for all the animators, like the people who didn't have anything to do with this, And so
I'm sure they're going to pay them.
Well, they're going to pay them, but it's there's articles coming out about like the development of Mortal Kombat and all these other games and stuff and movies where like animators and stuff are put under a huge crunch, or some of them are salaried, and so like the hours are unfair and stuff.
I bet.
They talked about like one of the games. I don't know if it was Mortal Kombat, but another game of some sort. It was God of War. These people like would go weeks without seeing their families.
Yeah, most of the video game stuff. I don't know if you look online and see the interviews of some people that do video game stuff. They're just they're eating and sleeping
at the desks. And I want to watch. There's a documentary called Raising Kratos. It's about that.
Oh wow!
So that people were worried about like, well, this is a primarily CG movie. It's very similar to a video game. Like, is it just going to force a bunch of like animators to put in overtime? Sure, they're going to get paid, but like,
some may die.
I would ask like why they should give a crap about what animators like. That's more work for them or for someone else that's an animator, and that's the way the business is. So like towards the end of a project, it's gonna go nuts. Any project's gonna get nuts towards the end, and so those people, it's better for them to have a job.
I guess their thinking was though like it was an unfair deadline they try to hit, and so the announcement of them pushing it to February was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. Now it's a realistic timeline.
Yeah.
So it's overtime over the course of like a regular time instead of overtime and like you're gonna get the next 6 months of work done in the next month, or something, because it was supposed to be out in November. And
I didn't know.
Yeah, I think originally it was November, and they were like it was gonna be a Thanksgiving movie, and they're like, as it might be pushing it because you're essentially redoing the whole movie. So you're taking the main character and redoing him.
Yeah.
But the artwork they put out, because this Sonic isn't wearing gloves.
Yeah.
So the artwork they put out about
Has
the
the
thing,
gloves.
he's holding his gloved hand is holding a sign saying coming out February 14th.
Yeah.
So it looks like that's like that little sign of like, hey, like literally.
Took your advice.
Exactly. Which
Shut
is
the fuck up.
I don't know. I heard a podcast talking about whether or not that was good for the industry, like for like the crowds basically
Making decisions.
responding to the internet exploding like that. If that's good or not.
Well, because it'll keep happening now.
Maybe
It's just going to probably keep happening where the internet explodes about something, but I don't know if they'll listen or not. I feel like this was generally they probably looked at it and going, it's probably a decent critique.
It was a gut I think it was a gut thing. Like they saw how bad the review was on their Sonic, so they're like, "Oh, maybe we have to change this."
Someone had pointed out like that the director, he's never really directed something this big before, but he is a graphic designer, like a VFX designer. So they're like, so either him or someone on his team, you get this vibe of like him or someone on his team was like, "See, told you so," and now they're going to do it, you know? Or
I'm sure there's someone somewhere had been like that worked with them had to be like, why are his hands not enormously huge? He's already a giant blue hedgehog.
That's literally there to save the Earth.
That's
another deal.
See, I don't know if I like the alien story now.
Did you ever watch there's two different cartoons, which both I think were voiced by the
Jaleel
kid.
White.
Yeah, Jaleel White, or better known as Urkel.
Oh,
Stefan Urkel.
Exactly. And I wonder if, because in the second one, it's a really weird, it's like half rock opera because it's like him and his brother and his sister, like, and they all play music together.
I don't think I saw that.
And it's like in the dystopian future.
are they all hedgehogs?
Yes. I think other people aren't hedgehogs,
like
but his brother and
Tails.
sisters are. Brother and sister are, and it's like this dystopian future where I think it's actually even on Netflix, or at least it was, where like they're turning like other animals into like robots, kind of like in the video game. So
why don't they do that for the movie? There's already a plot in the game. I forgot about that. And that angers me. Like whenever they're like a game or something already has a story, and they're like, we need to make up an alien story. Like there was already a story. It worked.
Which is funny. I think one of the later, probably universally hated Sonics, I think the PlayStation one, has him like running around and like talking to normal people, and like one of the girls that he falls in love with is like, you know, an actual like person and not like another hedgehog. Which I don't know if they're gonna. I didn't play the game, so I don't know.
route.
Yeah, I don't know if they're. I'm sure that probably how you talked about Detective Pikachu being like a version of one of the games.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're gonna go. If that's where they're going.
Okay. Yeah,
Interesting.
I don't know. Yeah, I haven't kept up with Sonic since like Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic and Tails or something like that.
Me neither.
So, but
Been a while.
it is one of those things where like if you're gonna hit up a nostalgia property, like you got to tread that redesign real carefully. Like they didn't try to redesign Pikachu. Like they just made it look like now you saw his fur. That was probably the extent of like that design. They were like, so that's what he looks like when his fur is dirty, and when he's cleaner.
He
like,
has texture.
Yeah, but he was the same character. I mean, he had like the blushy cheeks. No explanation. That's just in his fur like that. Psyduck is a like not proportionally correct duck. Like
That is also an EMP.
yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I can't say I'm excited for the new Sonic movie.
I don't think anybody's actually excited for
but
this movie.
I'll probably see it, especially now they're doing the redesign.
Yeah.
I know there's suspicion that the redesign thing was like part of the marketing scheme or PR stunt or whatever. I tend to lean more on the Occam's razor. Like,
Yeah.
it probably wasn't that complicated. But you never know.
Like an Alex Jones kind of thing. Like,
Did
they did this from the beginning.
Yeah.
Did the first Sonic have tails, or was it just Sonic?
No,
It
the
was just
first one was
Sonic.
just Sonic. Yeah.
Okay.
Tails was the second game.
All right. Okay.
And then Knuckles came like later. Or was
Yeah.
it in the same game as
I think
Tails?
it was after Tails.
I think it was afterwards, but I think that there was I think Knuckles there was a bad guy. I don't know if it was in 2 or 3, and then there was a weird like cartridge that you could plug into it and play as Knuckles. Like Sega had this weird thing, and you can look it up online, where like you could literally plug like 20 different things into
Yeah.
like each other till
There
you
was,
get
like,
down to the Sega Genesis.
There was like the 32X, like
Yeah.
the Master System adapter, and then the CD thing. But it was because Sega was like America and Japan, and there was like separate plans going on.
Yeah.
That, and they didn't want to. I don't think they were still designing Dreamcast or whatever it was, and they were just
Dreamcast.
But
trying to extend that Sega.
It was either Dreamcast or Saturn was like happening in Japan, but Sega America was like they went in a wait or like it was something separate. It was weird because they were running 2 separate businesses and then just killed both of them. Like that was like the end of the hardware era for them.
Well, I don't know if it played as big of a role, but the Dreamcast, I remember one of my friends had like the entirety of the lineup of the system on DVD, and you could just put it in and load it. Like, here's your all these ripped games. So that's about the time that piracy really started hitting. So I think that's partially what helped hurt it.
Gotcha.
We do game night for youth group at our
Yeah.
church like a couple times a year, and one of the things we pull out is the Dreamcast.
No way.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
I think Dreamcast was that when we were in college or going to college?
Yeah, it was around the time of the GameCube.
I just missed it then because the GameCube Dreamcast era. Like I wasn't going to invest in a game system at that point.
Yeah.
Because of that time frame.
Yeah, I didn't buy I bought a PS2 in around college time, and then the only system I bought after that was like an Xbox. No, I bought an Xbox first and then a PS2. And then that was the last thing I ever bought.
It'll definitely date me. I'm pretty positive that like my first semester of college is when Tony Hawk came out, the original.
Oh wow.
So
Oh yeah, because I'm like a year or two younger than you. So yeah, because Tony Hawk came out when I was still like at the end of high school. Was it? So the timing seems like it's a little bit off, but I don't know. I'll have to go back and look.
I don't know. I have to see what year.
Yeah, but it was definitely around that time.
I feel like it was
within
2000.
I brought it my first semester, and my roommate Travis was, and I would like kept writing our like score on the whiteboard
Gotcha.
on our door, and so it'd be like 500, 700,
Yeah.
cross it out, 2,000, cross it out, 10,000. Like I just, and eventually he looked at me. He's like, "You've got to take this system back home."
I
I'm
did
missing
30
too many
Benihanas. It's like what is Madonna's. There's all kinds of moves I learned from and music.
What a classic game. That like Driver. Where is
Tony
it?
Hawk Pro
99.
Skater, 1999.
I said 2000.
Yeah.
So 99. Yeah, so I was a sophomore in high school.
I was a freshman.
Yeah, I guess it released. Okay, so it released the year before I went to college.
So that makes sense. Those would overlap. Like it's still like so back then, games had lifespans. Mm-hmm. That was more than like a month.
Dude, I still love Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Like you remember when Tony Hawk or like Driver or any of those games came out or Gran Turismo? It would be popular for like 2 years.
yeah,
Dude, Twisted
overlapped
Metal
lots of other ones. Oh yeah, Twisted Metal
is still like well, not anymore.
still popular.
Like PS1 when PS1 came out, it was huge.
I loved that game.
Actually, you could get that package where it comes with Twisted Metal. And I think that's what I did.
By next week, we'll probably be finding out more about Dark Phoenix. So that whatever garbage fire that's going to be.
Are you
Dude,
guys gonna go see it?
I want to see it.
Probably.
I'm excited.
I want to go with you guys just because I'm kind of like want to see it just to watch it burn.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, you know what? We should bring Ruth Ann and we should get really drunk before.
jeez.
That's fun. This would be the opposite of liking a movie. But I don't know. It might be good.
I'm going to go as Bubble Boy.
We hung out with Boss Level 8 last night, and they were like, supposedly it's going to be really good. I'm like, because Disney spent money like reshooting stuff. So like, so now there's a factor that we haven't had before: Disney money reshoots. So maybe, but I don't know.
I don't think it was. I think they were reshooting before the Disney thing happened.
The Fox Marvel stuff has got me on the trailers before. Hence Apocalypse. So
Well, all that means to me is that they're afraid, so they're spending a lot of money on hyping it up.
Yeah,
I want to hear one story of a Hollywood movie that got that much reshooting done and ended up being a success.
I wanted to show you guys a video that I saw on Instagram, and it was totally hyping the movie from Fox or whatever it was. And it was like, I had a bunch of people like Hugh Jackman and all these people like,
Jeff from Boss Level 8 mentioned the same thing, and I haven't seen this yet.
and they were all like talking about like, oh, it's the end of an era and blah, blah, blah. It's basically like trying to hype this movie as you need to watch this movie like Endgame. It's the end. It's like, well, hopefully.
It's like X-Men changed the superhero movies.
I haven't seen this, but Jeff said like it made him want to see it, and he hadn't thought about it before that. And I was like, maybe it won't do the same thing for me because I'm already so jaded to everything. But like, I will give it this. Like they said, it did start the whole superhero thing. So I've made this analogy 100 times. It's like your racist grandpa. Like you're there because of him, but right now I'm not completely agreeing. Like, you know, it's fine. But
Fine.
I don't think it's right. I think there's like rumors that like 4 or 5 years out we're gonna get like the X-Men in the MCU. And
I want to see Deadpool in a Marvel film.
yeah, he's supposed to be in like Spider-Man, I think.
Okay, here, I'll show it to you guys. I found it.
Okay, here you go.
There you go.
So
I dig it.
This might just be me because once again I'm jaded to the whole X-Men franchise, the movie franchises. It like you said that you could tell that they're trying to play off like the end game. Look, we have it too.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like when you're like, I don't know, when you're doing something and you're not thinking about it and it's just going well. Like, I don't know, like like you're at the gym and you're doing like a workout, right? And then, you know, like someone comes up and like, hey, you're doing a good job at that. And the person next to you is like, look, I'm doing it too. Like, me too. Look, me too. I'm over here. Like, that's what that kind of felt like. It was like,
Yeah, you're all right.
the sentiment in that video and the clips they used were like the sentiments I got during the trailers of all those movies. But they're not the sentiments of what the movies actually were. Like when we saw, like it pointed out like Wolverine Origins. No one felt like that during Wolverine Origins.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess like Logan was good. Like the First Class stuff, that Days of Future Past was like fine for me at least. But like, but it like
For all you peeps out there who haven't seen X-Men, there's kind of a little bit of lying going on there.
I feel like at least. But if you haven't seen X-Men, wait.
Don't.
Just wait for Feige to, because it's so messed up, like the continuity and like I don't know. I would rather
Or
them
lack
just,
thereof.
well, that's the thing. I wish that they would just not made it a continuity, and then it'd be fine. But they try to tie stuff together and like we have so many split ends now, like on everything. Like, but I don't know. I'll say there's the whole Halle Berry storm rant there going on.
Yeah.
But
As soon as she popped up, I looked at you.
it's fine. It's fine. I don't know. We'll see. I want it to be a good movie. I just know from history that it's not. It's like an abusive relationship. It's not going to get better now. Like, I've changed. No, really. It's the last time.
People love these characters. Yeah, we did.
I still love the characters. I just don't like the movies.
Well, if you stuck along this long, if you stuck along this long,
Sure.
if you're still listening to us now, congrats. We will be wrapping this one up, but you'll see us next Wednesday. Thanks for joining this buckbang.
Yeah.
Mukbang of garbage.
Thanks for hanging out.
Except for Rod, he's drinking juicy juice.
So I have imbibed in other substances today, and drinking wasn't a pleasant thing for me. But then Josh said he had like a juice box left, and that sounded good. Trying to like revitalize
Get
my
me
system.
a juice box.
Memorial Day juice boxes. Want one of those?
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, it was good. But yeah, check out all our stuff. We're RKVC. We're a band. We have stuff on Spotify and Apple Music, all the music stuff, and then YouTube and all those social medias. And Josh has podcasts.
Yep.
Yes. Please review us or leave comments.
Yeah, Apple is probably the big one with a review on the, or leave comments and stuff on YouTube. We do video version now on YouTube.
Especially if you enjoy what you heard, if you like hanging out with us, you know, tell the thing. Do a little review.
Be nice.
Be nice. I'll give you a gold star.
I'll leave a cookie for you.
Yeah. A little yellow spandex. Just a piece.